And what you'll find is that you'll develop a system where people are of service to each other. And that's when amazing things will start to occur and opportunities will start to spring up. I'm not saying these opportunities are a tick for tack, like you will be of service and you will definitely get a reward. That's not the mentality you have to have. Think of it as planting the seed of a tree under whose shade you never have the intention to sit under. Hey. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Service Business Success with your host, me, Steve Class. I want to take the time to apologize for my leave of absence. I took a 30-day sabbatical, if you will. I'm based out of the New York City metropolitan area, and as you guys can guess, in January, it is quite cold. So every single year, my wife and I have committed to travel to warmer pastures every January or February, right after the holidays are done with. We've done Buenos Aires, we've done Playa del Carmen, and this year we went to Medellin, Colombia. Took the whole family, wife, 2 little kids, and unbelievably beautiful down there. If you've ever considered checking it out, highly encourage it. It is tough with 2 children. In general, it's always tough to travel with 2 kids, but in particular, this city was very hilly, and didn't have a lot of kid activities like playgrounds and things like that. It's great for adults, single men, single women, married couples, of course. The restaurant scene is surprisingly phenomenal, and the US dollar does go a long way. I think we had a nanny for $5 an hour. She was just amazing to have around the kids. So we were there for about a month, and more importantly, the reason I took that sabbatical, because I could have recorded episodes down there, was I spent the entire month in preparation of my TEDx talk, which I'm proud to say I just delivered this past weekend. And as I record this, it is February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. And I did it February 10th. And the whole month, it was just preparation, rehearsal, refining the message. Something that I committed to about 6 months ago. As some of the listeners know, my mother passed away last June. And that really motivated me to make some drastic life changes. I left the business I no longer enjoyed and sold it. And I really wanted to step full force into a speaking engagement and consulting career. And I've been working behind the scenes to have that come to fruition. So the TEDx earmarker goes a long way in branding. And I felt like the message I had inside me just had to come out eventually. And that message was about overcoming adversity. What's helped me is being of service to others. And I learned that from my high school English teacher, Mr. Romano. And I incorporated some of those elements into my speech. For those of you who don't know, I encourage you to listen to episode number 1 where I interviewed my father on this. But my father went to federal prison for 3 years when I was 12 years old for being involved in a $10 million money laundering scheme. And that served as the backbone of the first true form of adversity myself and my family endured when I was just a 12-year-old boy. We were living a pretty high life, upper middle class for sure, in Staten Island, New York. And the FBI seized basically all of his bank accounts, over $250,000, the house, the cars, really everything. And I struggled for many years to cope with that, and grew pretty antisocial, very resentful. Became an introvert, and before that I was always an extrovert. For years it stayed with me until I was about 18, 19, or 20 years old when I started to slowly come out of that shell. And the way I did that was through being of service. I learned that through my first mentor, Mr. Romano. So my TEDx talk, which is not out officially yet for consumption, but I promise I will post it as soon as I am able. That was really the theme of the speech, was using adversity as fuel to be of service to people. And then through that service, that's when you'll find amazing opportunities. And the way I delivered this speech was thinking of that as the main idea, and then repetition of practice, getting the reps in, so to speak. It lasted about 15, 16 minutes. I was on stage, underneath this bright spotlight. The crowd really isn't that massive in using these talks. It's more for the wider audience of TEDx websites and the YouTube platform. But that being said, though, you really do have to have the message resonate. And I want it to come off as natural as humanly possible without having to just look down at my notes and read a script. So I committed to having the PowerPoint presentation enhance my delivery and always looking actively into the crowd. In my former life, I was a DJ and I did some emceeing events, but that was very scripted and let's now welcome Mr. and Mrs. Smith for the first time ever type of thing. It's pretty generic in that sense. Even though I spoke in front of 200-300 people, this is the first time I really gave a presentation in front of any crowd and hopefully a much greater, wider audience. I'm really hoping that this message resonates with a lot of people who are experiencing adversity. I think it's important that we define what that adversity is. And I can give you a quick little tidbits here. Typically, it falls under 3 categories. It's abuse. That can be physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. It can be neglect. That's physical or emotional neglect. Or the most common form is household challenges. It's money woes, divorced parents, mental illness in the family, domestic violence, or in my case, an incarcerated family member. And during my research for this TEDx talk, I learned, that over 64% of adolescents, so 0 to 18 years old, will go through at least one form of the adversity I just mentioned. And that was from a 2019 study from the CDC. I can guarantee you since COVID that those figures have definitely gone up. So it's time for us to learn to expect adversity in our lives and not shelter from it. I think we see that a lot with helicopter parenting and, these young teenagers or young adults are experiencing high levels of anxiety because they don't know how to cope with this adversity. They call it microaggressions, whatever you will. And what we've done is formulate a pretty fragile society because of this. So I think if you just embrace it and accept that it's happening, you will find that you're going to come out a better, stronger, and more aware person than before you experienced it. While I don't wish what happened to myself and my family upon anyone, I am glad that it happens because it made me the person I am today. And I think that if we let adversity, this is how I ended the speech, if you let it define you, it's going to be a negative effect. And that's your chip on your shoulder, so to speak, of I grew up with divorced parents and that's why I couldn't get into the best schools, or I was, traumatized as a young adult, through domestic violence. And if that becomes your crutch and you play the victim mentality, you're not going to grow as a person on that. So I always encourage others to not let adversity define you, but just help refine you. And that's when you'll find great things will start to occur. And to lead with service, and this is where I can tie this into business, because a lot of people listening are business owners, and they're probably like, why is he going on about TEDx and his adversity? It ties directly into business, because I became a man of service. And I try to instill that into the company culture in my organization. It's not through monetary gains, although that certainly helps, but it's through simple acts of kindness that I've found that definitely moves the needle. Checking in on that coworker whose parents just passed away 2 weeks ago and seeing how she's doing, seeing if she needs more time off. It's setting aside time just to have personal conversations with your teammates where it's not just all business driven. And that's how you slowly will impact the culture and plant the seed for members of your organization to start, in turn, having that culture within themselves and spreading it to their own coworkers. So it's not just coming from the leadership, although it has to come from the leadership in order to instill it downwards. And what you'll find is that you'll develop a system where people are of service to each other. And that's when amazing things will start to occur. Now, opportunities will start to spring up. And I'm not saying these opportunities are a tick for tack, like you will be of service and you will definitely get a reward. That's not the mentality you have to have. Think of it as planting the seed of a tree under whose shade you never have the intention to sit under. So it's developing this culture within your own family, your business, your life. And then that will yield fruit that'll eventually be eaten in unbeknownst ways to you even. It can be someone that heard about your services because you provide so much value to one of their friends. Your intention was never to get them as necessarily as a client, but because you were so impactful, that was the end result. And it's a very, very long process, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's about getting 1% better every day and committing it to memory, and your daily habits. And the way that I found is by asking just a few simple questions and integrating it into your daily conversations, such as, I'm curious about, tell me more, help me understand, walk me through that. By incorporating these elements into your daily speech, the person you're speaking to is going to start to feel heard and be more willing to open up to you, as opposed to these surface level as how's the weather going type of conversations. And when that starts to happen, that's when you get to really know your teammates and become a better empathetic leader. And it's important that you make sure you hire the right people that espouse these views, that don't have that tick for tack mentality of just like, hey, how was your weekend? And they don't really care how your weekend is. And they just want to get into what they called you for initially. And having time set aside to do that may seem burdensome to a lot of people, but I promise you, you spend 15 minutes on someone's personal life, it's going to yield unimaginable results. So in a nutshell, that's what I was doing this past 30 days with my TEDx speech. And I promise I will deliver that once I am able and is officially out. So it's good to be back. I have a lot of interviews in the hopper with some really, really great entrepreneurs out there. I will be going next week to this event called The Blocks, which is, think of it as a Shark Tank, but more for service-based entrepreneurs. It's a competition with other small business owners. Hopefully, I can report on the other side that I won the competition. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But thank you, as always, for tuning in, and I will see you on the back end. Have a great day, everyone. Go crush it. Do something that frightens you, and take advantage and seize the day, as they say.